guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today we are talking about frog modifications. I'm going to give you a handful of tricks that you can use on your frogs to become more effective, to get a better hookup ratio, to get more bites, to look different than everybody else. These are going to make a huge difference for you this year. Let's run through them. First off, this is my all-around favorite frog. River to Sea, Bullywah 2, straight out of the package. I'm going to show you how I modify my favorite frog. Now, I throw all my frogs in a variety of colors, but my main three colors are chartreuse, then white, then black. And we're talking about the belly color of the frog. That's my order. Chartreuse, then white, then black, then everything else. But that Bullywah 2, if I could only have one frog, that would be my frog of choice. So we'll take that one straight out of package, and I'll show you what I do to this frog. It's simple. Because in the past, we did all sorts of crazy things to frogs to try and get fish to eat them. Try and get better hookup ratios. Try and get bites when other people couldn't get bit. I mean, we tried everything under the sun. Changing legs, trimming legs, changing colors. It's gotten a lot easier because brands in the last few years have really listened to the frog fishermen, changed the way that they're designing frogs, and there are some really good options on the market, almost straight out of the package. So this frog, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim my legs. So I want to end up about there. So I'll just take a good pair of scissors before I go out on the water. Just cut those legs down. See what we got. Perfect. Just like that. Just trim those legs. What that does is it makes it harder when a bass comes up to short strike it. There's less to grab onto besides the body because you want them to eat the entire frog, not just a part of it. The second thing I do is I look at the frog and I decide, am I fishing this particular frog in open water or in cover? Because it comes with the hook points fairly flush and slightly tipped in. Now, if I'm going to be throwing in the grass and the tules and on the slop and up in the junk, I'm actually ready to fish. That's literally all I do to this frog, and that's why it's my favorite frog. But if I'm going to fish this frog in open water, one of my favorite ways to fish, parallel tules, parallel riprap, throw it under a dock and walk it out, then weedlessness is not my biggest concern. Hookup ratio is. So I take my hooks and I bend them out and I bend them up. Just slightly, so there's more bite than there was before. If you really wrench on them, because a frog hook is stout, depending on brand, you're likely to break the hook. But if you're careful and you just do it in small increments, just slowly bend, perfect. I end up with a hook point. See how it just barely stands off the body? Well, now it catches even before the body collapses, just running down the bait. I catch. If I'm throwing in thick cover, that will drive you crazy. But if you're going to be in open water, it makes all the difference. So, number one, trim those legs down. Number two, change that hook angle, and you're all set. That's how I fish them. Now, here's a couple more quick modifications, because different people throw different baits. Giant baits, smaller baits, baits with popper faces on them. But all frogs can be modified to be different and to meet different circumstances. So, second thing, if you're having trouble hooking up consistently, one of the things you can do is add a little trailer hook. Now, we're going to link all the gear, every single thing I talk about, down in the video description. The baits, the hooks, everything. So you guys don't have to go searching for it. We'll give you a link right down there to exactly what these products are. But this guy, all you do with this, I take a frog and I take those hooks and I kind of squeeze them together to make it a little easier, and then dropped it. Then I take those loops and each one is going to go over a hook point. Slide it down, pull my legs through. Oop, those legs are old. There's my finished product. So now there's literally a trailer hook dangling out there behind that frog, just floating along. When they come up to short strike it, they get hooked. Really changes your hookup ratio. Now the only downside, let me turn this over so you can really see these hooks. The frog hook is strong, heavy wire. And that trailer, it's pretty light wire. So if you do this, use a softer than normal frog rod. Drop down to like a 7-foot heavy or a 7.3 heavy or even a medium heavy instead of an extra heavy. Because if a big one comes up and only gets this hook and you have them on an extra heavy, you're likely to bend out. So keep that in mind. Just a couple more tips for you. Actually, 3 more. Number 1 is rattles. Aftermarket glass rattles. You can buy them just in package. What I like to do with these is my larger frogs. Frogs that have room inside the body where when they collapse it doesn't matter. I add extra rattles to them for extra sound. Because coming out of the package, they're either silent or almost silent. I fill them up with rattles. You get some good sound there. If your water's murky or if there's chop on the water or anything like that, makes a huge difference. So rattles, don't be afraid to add them. There's an extra 3 or 4 rattles inside of this frog. Now this is a big frog. This is a Spro King Daddy, so it's got room for them. But even so, that's a lot, but it makes a huge difference in helping the fish find that bait. Next, split shot. Regular old split shot. If you're fishing matted vegetation, so the actual mats of slop, and you're just dragging that bait across the top and it's just leaving a little frog trail, and sometimes they come up and blow through it. If you're on that true slop, don't be afraid to take some split shots and put them inside that frog. Let me show you how easy it is. So there's a split shot, and that's a big one. So for that big one, we'll use a King Daddy for that. We'll use the King Daddy. All I do is I take my bait, turn it around so that I'm not gonna hook myself. You see where that hook enters the bait? Now not every frog can do this, but almost all of them can. Some have a tube inside. What I do is I take that split shot and go right in behind that hook and just push it right through into the interior of that frog. This one might be hard to get in. It's a really big split shot. I may have to just show you one of the frogs where I've already stuffed one in there. Nope, there we go. Got it. Now what does that do? Well, there I got that hook turned back around. Legs straightened out. Can't tell the difference at all. But what I've done is changed how heavy the frog is. And if you use smaller split shot, you can put a bunch of them into a smaller frog and really fill it up part way. When you're on that matted vegetation, a heavier frog is going to push down harder on the mat. It's going to leave a bigger trail, and from the underside, it's making more commotion. It's easier for the fish to find it. So don't be afraid to do that, even to the point of making a frog want to sink. Because again, this is going to be a dedicated frog solely for mat fishing. If that's what it's for, you can fill that thing up so it's heavy. You just need enough room that it can still collapse and expose the hook. You don't want to impact to that. But short of that, you go for it. The fish can find it, they can track it, and they will connect with it more easily. Then last but not least, if you've got a frog, and the Spros are famous for this, they're pretty stiff out of the package. Here's what you do. Take your frog. Here's a prime example too. This guy right here. Let me take this hook back off here. The snag proof is one that's been through the ringer with me. Some frogs are much stiffer than others. This one takes a lot of effort to collapse it. This one, it's nothing at all. Just totally collapses. The difference, because here's the same exact frog. This one is ultra soft, this one is not. The difference is that this frog here has been boiled and boiled and boiled and boiled. I literally mean get a pot of water, get it up to a boiling temperature, and then throw your frog in there. And I use tongs to hold it down in that water and let that material get hot. Now, don't use a pot that you're going to turn around and cook in. I mean, I don't know. It's plastic and lead. Probably not the best thing to turn around and eat out of that pot. So go buy yourself a dollar store pot to do this with. But seriously, boil water, put your frogs in that water, let them get ultra hot, and then let them slow cool on their own. Don't immediately cool them back down. Boil them again, let them slow cool, boil them again, let them slow cool. You'll end up with a frog that is ultra soft. If your fish tend to slash at the baits and miss, boiling a frog makes all the difference in the world. Downside is your frog is going to become weaker and more likely to tear. See how the belly ripped in that one? That's the downside. But if we're talking about catching fish versus not catching fish, if you're in a tournament scenario or you're trying to catch a big one and you don't want to miss your shot, boiling those frogs makes a huge improvement. Now, I showed you a whole bunch of different modifications. We didn't really talk about gear. I only talked about one of the specific frogs, but down in the video description, in addition to these modifications, I'm going to link you my exact gear that I frog with, as well as the gear that I adapt to if I switch over to a lighter hook. And the rattles, the split shots, all that stuff, that's all going to be down there. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Summertime is prime time to throw that frog, and it doesn't have to have a bad hookup ratio. Frogs have such a bad rap, but these modifications make all the difference. If you do these things, if you target fish in open water instead of cover, if you add weight, if you add rattles, these are all things that help the fish hone in. Your hookup ratio is going to go through the roof. You are going to have an awesome summer throwing hollow frogs. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you soon.